there are so many networking events, there's speed networking and there's this event or that event. And it really bothers me because when people are like, what event should we do next? I'm always like, don't do an event. This city is too small for these speed networking events. Like, we should know everybody already. And if we don't, shame on us. I'm very passionate about our people. We have incredible people at VIP. We wouldn't be who we are if not for the incredible people that we have. I'm really proud of our employees because they're all feeling empowered and ready to take action. The joy of marketing is if it's done right, it is the heartbeat of your strategy and everything that you do as a corporation.
Fly fishing, brewing beer, raising little ones, and working with your family. I mean, those are all really cool foundations in life.
It's going to be super authentic, whatever we do. That's one where I feel like I learn a lot from them and I support in any way that I can, but they're experts at what they do. I think in general, we're headed in this direction. People want something that's more authentic. Consumers in general are hit with a barrage of messaging and messages. And I think that this is a wonderful platform to have the opportunity to do that, because at the end of the day, people don't want to buy a product. And Mike and I talk about this all the time. They don't want to buy a product. They don't want to buy a company and the service that the company's selling. They want to buy the people. They want to know who those people are and how they tick.
The vulnerability that's been on that phone with different people, and that not only people you have talked to for years, but people that you just have a conversation with, the amount of information that they'll tell you about their personal life and just what's going on and what happened when they were a kid. So if you can have those conversations with people, if you're not afraid to go, just engage. I think it opens a lot of doors for maybe not today or tomorrow, but in 6 months, that rapport that you built with those people because of that intimacy, I think is going to pay dividends for people.
So I didn't really formally introduce Pete and what Pete does, and I didn't necessarily formally introduce Meg Tidd, but Meg is the COO of VIP Structures, and then I'll let Pete tell a quick blurb on what he's up to these days, and then we'll go from there.
Perfect.
Yes, so these days I am the Director of Client Services for HCM Solutions. We're a human capital management company. We provide a bunch of services and a software platform to help people manage their human resource data. So coincidentally, I see that your dad started at age 23 running a business. That touched my heart a little bit. I was 22. I started a business here in Syracuse. I wasn't from Syracuse. Built it up, sold it, and then ramped up again with the company that bought me. My task is to build a brand locally with HCM Solutions, and we're in the midst of trying to do that.
And I thought it was brilliant is mobile meetings. So Pete, tell Meg your concept about going out and meeting with people.
If we can't come into your building, you can't come into ours. We'll meet you in your driveway. We'll come to your parking lot. We'll use a 6-foot table, a commercial grade tent, pop-up tent, and 2 chairs, and it shows the business community, hope we're engaged and we're trying everything within our means to A, be safe, but B, to also just keep our foot on the gas and keep going.
Kind of dial it back into marketing for a moment, and we want to hear Meg's story.
I did 4 years, I did my undergrad degree in classical vocal performance, so opera, that whole thing. Really started to take a liking to the PR and the communications aspect of it, and then got into relationship management. And he said, Meg, I'd really like to recommend you for the MBA program. So needless to say, getting into business school was one of the best things that ever happened to me. What my real passion actually, and although I've done marketing for a while, my real passion falls in corporate strategy. Everybody talks about family businesses and it's like, did you always know you were going to work with a family business? And my dad and I were sitting out on the deck, and my dad to this day will be like, I did not say that. I don't remember this story at all. And that was when he finally said, then maybe you'll actually consider coming to the company. So I said, all right, slow down. Let's rethink this whole thing. So the rest is history. I mean, it's not a linear path. I wish I had better advice for those who are interested in marketing and how to land there someday, but that's how I ended up there. I believe very strongly that marketing really needs to be the backbone of a company strategy. They need to be tied at the hip. I think the reason I talk about that is they were smart enough to understand the authenticity behind that. So if I bring it back to VIP and what that means, when I started taking a look at this, I knew what I really wanted to achieve, and what I really want to achieve, because we are not there yet. What I really want to achieve is to create a really organic growth of our brand. So there is a company out of California or a company out of Massachusetts, wherever that is, I want that company to realize we're running out of space, or we have a space problem. And our job then is to say, but do you need 100,000 square feet? Let's back that up a little bit. So our marketing strategy originally was really around, how do we talk about ourselves from an expert perspective? How do we place ourselves out there as the people who have owned 3 million square feet plus of space, who have owned warehouse space, who have owned office space and medical space. It's not the cold, hard, here's my billboard and here's my advertisement on TV and that type of marketing is not what I have any interest in as a company. Marketing needs to be our people sharing our story and what's going on out there and placing ourselves as the expert. So what will sustain us is that word of mouth, is that, going back to our clients and doing exactly what you said, Pete, checking in with people. Because we've had a fair few people come back to us and say, oh, thank goodness you reached out to us. I actually need X, Y, and Z right now. Can you guys help us out? And we've been able to move really quickly because we're fully integrated. But suffices to say, I think it's our relationships, Mike, and I think it's the strategy of making sure we're there for our people and not just there for the buildings they need, being there from a human perspective in general. Helping them. How can we make introductions for them to others within the industry? How can we help their businesses succeed? I am, and you know this, Mike, and it's probably why we're touching on this topic, I'm very passionate about our people. We have incredible people at VIP. We wouldn't be who we are if not for the incredible people that we have. So I'm going to speak solely for myself and positions that we've hired for. The idea of doing things because of your gut and what your gut says is sort of a cliche thing, and I think in some circumstances it works, and in some circumstances it doesn't. But I will say, if there's one thing that is unequivocal for me with using my gut, it's in hiring. I know it in my gut, we have to have this person, that this person is going to have a major impact on this company. I don't care what the position is, I care about the human being. Hiring slowly is a smart thing to do. Taking our time and really getting to know someone, really looking at references. It's much like the marketing world these days. We really need to get out and get to know the people out in the world, which also, I think it's as important to be out meeting people for jobs as it is meeting people for a potential future client, which means as much care and love. I want to know what makes people tick. I want to know what their life is like, what their dreams or aspirations are, and are they just that right fit for our team? So I think for some positions, and sometimes you can't do this, but for some positions where it's possible and really getting to know folks is key. You can tell really quick if someone's going to be really quick to point a finger and say, it wasn't me, it was them. I had nothing to do with it. Or you can also tell real quick if someone's going to say, yes, it was me, I did it all. Don't mind the 25 other people over here. I got this. I don't know if I really care that they have any of the background. I want to know what kind of human being they are, and I want to know that they're going to fit.
But let's talk about the fact that we want the best people possible. And I shared a story with Pete that it's really about the person, and we'll figure out the role once they're here.
Yep.
And it all comes down to the integrity of the person.
Mike talks about his job in a way that most people talk about going on vacation. It's never about, oh my God, I got to do this thing. There's no frustration. It's empowering. And then I followed it up by reading a Syracuse.com article about your dad and his take on leadership. It's a matter of surrounding yourself with the best and brightest people you can find. We'll hire people because of who they are and then teach them what we need them to do for us. It's allowed us to assemble a great team. Man, it gives me goosebumps. It's good stuff.
I forgot about that. That's it's powerful.
And honestly, I think at the end of the day, because we've had these conversations and we can be out there, you're right. I think with a lot of the hires that we have had, almost 9 times out of 10, they're like, I talked to so-and-so and I really got to come talk to you guys. All right. Good. It's about time. So yeah, that's very powerful stuff. Dave's done a great job.
And on the flip side, a lot of family businesses say, go work for somebody else, not necessarily to steal their ideas, but just go work for someone and learn how another company operates. So when you get here, you can bring some value of, all right, guys, you know what? Family's been doing this for 50 years. We might want to think about changing it up because this is what I learned at X, Y, and Z. I immediately went to work the Monday after I graduated from college for the family, and I regretted it, the Tuesday after the Monday I started, and said, this is so asinine. I should be at least working or taking a month to just, do something else than work. But I went immediately to work and never worked for anybody before that. And
hold on a second. Hold on. What are you talking about? What family business? I've never even heard this before.
It's a long story, Pete. I'll tell you another time.
I mean, I spent the first 3 years, I'm fairly certain they heard from me over and over again, like, you guys are the experts. I obviously have thoughts and things over here, and we're going to all work on them together. But there are things that I am learning from you, and please, I would ask a million questions and keep learning. But yeah, that is the one thing I think it could really help with as the team and the camaraderie and what that's like.
A couple of things I want to take away from the leadership concept, if you would indulge us.
Yeah, I think a couple things. So this was an interest. My son asked me the other day. So I have a 5-year-old son, Arthur. And the other day he goes, "Mama, are you the leader at the company?" And my response to him was, I'm one of a few leaders at the company. And sure enough, he comes back a few minutes later and he's like, because if you do it that way, Mama, people will buy into what you're talking about, and they'll all want to work together towards it. No joke. This went down. This is my 5-year-old. That is my leadership style. I am not somebody who tells people what to do. There are instances. I think kids, I'm going to go back to my son and start there. Kids teach us more than we can teach them. You're brought into this world all the time thinking like your job as a parent is to teach your child. And really my job as a parent is to learn from my child. They teach me. I have two. I have Augusta, who's 2 years old, a 2-year-old girl, and Arthur, who's 5. Those two teach me so much about life, and they are kind and open-minded and curious and willing and able. It is so important for me to be surrounded by people who are very capable of making their own decisions and making sound decisions and smart choices and working together to come to those conclusions. So I guess when it comes to leadership and it comes to the people I work with in my teams, I am definitely more of an extractor of information, asking questions constantly and encouraging everybody to sort of work better, work smarter, and get to certain successes. People are listening and people are watching and people have expectations.
Yeah, and I just want to say too, with that, you had a post the other day on LinkedIn. You had a quote. I'm paraphrasing, I'm cutting it out. You had something that said, "Simple act of just being." There's just a level of empathy and emotional intelligence that allows someone to A, write that, and then B, understand it, and then C, most importantly, actually implement it into a culture of a business, a family, and just humanity. It's probably that consciousness has probably been missing and needs to be there. So that was cool.
It had come from a place of checking in with some people. I had reached out to friends of mine and colleagues, and I had reached out in such a way where I just said, "Hey, with everything that's going on right now, how you doing?" And just sat there and had their moment of like, I am broken. I am not okay. This is not okay. And so to have gone through that and taking that moment to check in with some folks. So I'm hoping as a company we can do better. You know what? I take that back. I'm not hoping as a company we can do better. We as a company, we will do better. I mean, we tell ourselves that we have these gut checks where we're like, that feels weird. And I don't want to say that. That's all the more reason to talk about it. It's all the more reason to bring it up.
Talk to us about LGS. I think that it's such an amazing organization here locally, and seeing all the folks who have gone through the program. Can you speak to it?
It's leadership, but almost in a slightly different light. It affords leaders in Syracuse to really get to know the city in a way that when you're headed to your office every day, all of the people who make Syracuse tick really come to the forefront in leadership Greater Syracuse. I'm a huge fan of LGS. I think the connections are fantastic. There's no real program quite like that gives you that diversity. I mean,
outside of work,
yeah,
we know you've got the two little ones that you love dearly, but tell us about, what do you do outside of the VIP world? Well, the most important one, your passion for craft beer.
Damn straight, our passion for craft beer. So I think I mentioned, so my husband Andy is a 9th and 10th grade English teacher. I want to say probably 4 years ago, he had a few buddies talking about craft beer. Might be biased, but I do not think I'm biased. His stuff is really, really good. We decided to go off on the venture of starting a brewery. In what capacity and how it all comes together, we're still sorting through the pieces. The name will be Rise Farm Brewing. There's actually, I wish I could show you the quote or read the quote to you, but a rise form is the shape the water takes when a trout comes up and sips a fly.
Oh, cool.
And it's the ripple effect that comes out from that.
Mike, why didn't we start the conversation here?
I could go on this for forever.
Save the best for last. Fly fishing, brewing beer, raising little ones, and working with your family. I mean, those are all really cool foundations in life.
Right, so I want to get back to this brewery thing. Okay?
Yes, please.
So are you brewing in your garage now, or do you have a shed? What do you got going on?
So there's a really sweet setup in the basement right now. He brews about once a week. Everything we do is sort of based around the kids. So like one of the beers is called Shh, I Hear 'Em, because my daughter, a 2-year-old, will walk down the stairs and every night when she gets her jammies on after a tub, I'm sorry, my dog is barking, get her jammies on after a tub, she comes down and she goes, shh, I hear them. Mom, I go hear peepers. I hear peepers outside. Shh, I hear them. So that's his spring brew that we do. We have another one called A Squared, which is going to be the flagship for Arthur and Augusta. But everything in there, I mean, they're going to be very involved, hands-on, lifting bags of grain and hops and learning about it. I mean, the beer itself is really, really good. He's a very meticulous person, and brewing beer is a very scientific thing. So I think in that regard, we'll always have really good beer. And that was sort of the premise. So it's really easy these days to be like, I want to do a brewery. And before you know it, you've got this like huge facility and a bar. You're basically like running a bar. There are some really great breweries in New York State that is contingent upon really, really, really good beer. So that's really like vision number one. The beer itself has got to be superb. And that's all him. But from like a feel and it's funny, I had a friend the other day, she goes, you guys are so going to have a cheers. And I was like, no, that's not what we're going for at all. And I mentioned it to Andy and he was like, we might have that. So I give you a ton of credit for doing this. I think this is the way we do this. I think shows like this and people talking and, doing what you do, Mike. I mean, Mike, you've introduced me to like 5 people that I otherwise probably wouldn't have found and been introduced to.
Meg, thank you so much for joining us and entertaining us for an hour. And
really appreciate your time.
Yeah, I really appreciate it as well. Thank you so much for having me. Very much. I absolutely love it, and I'm so excited to watch what you do as this moves forward.